fighting games aren't super popular, but Mortal Kombat X is. Why? And then below that it says, we have a ton of coverage on the site.
These are show notes. These are not supposed to be looked at. These are not
I
forward
think
facing.
Mortal Kombat is great, but I don't like other games. Let's talk about Mortal Kombat.
So Mortal Kombat is, you look at the... We know a lot about you, people who watch and listen to Beyond. We can tell what you're reading.
We know what jobs you have.
Yeah, we can tell what you're reading, where you're reading it, what you're watching, when you're watching it, how far down the page you're scrolling, and your social security numbers.
You search for regular numerals instead of Roman numerals.
We do know
faster.
that. Yeah, we do know that.
Faster to type Final Fantasy 1.5 than XV.
We've got the power.
Same number of keys.
Analytics.
Yeah.
Anyway, and one of the things we've learned is that a whole lot of you are really excited about Mortal Kombat X, about Mortal Kombat 10. So it's interesting because fighting games used to be a humongous deal. I mean, people talk about Donkey Kong Country winning the war in '94 and being the big deal on the Super Nintendo, but I think it was Street Fighter 2 that was probably more important. Being a home exclusive for the Super Nintendo as long as a timed exclusive for the Super Nintendo. And fighting games were huge in arcades. They were huge at home. And then right around the crap fest that was Killer Instinct, it all kind of fell off a cliff.
Excuse me.
And
No, sorry. Excuse me.
Okay.
That is
Really?
I mean, I like it because I was in 4th grade.
Max has a Jago tattoo.
Well, that would be amazing.
Yeah.
I like Spinal.
I thought you had a Kenner tattoo.
Well, Jared, the same thing that happened with fighting games was happening with consoles around the same time, where like everybody had a console. There were just hundreds of. It was like the Panasonic and the all of a sudden they all went away, right? And like only 3 remained. And the same thing happened. And you couldn't go into. You could throw a quarter in an arcade and it would bounce off 15 different machines, and they were all bad, aside from like 3 or 4. And the 3 or 4 that were great were really great, and they're the ones that actually survived. I mean, it was fascinating to see Mortal Kombat, especially. I remember playing Mortal Kombat 2 in the arcade, and in that same arcade they had a launch party for Mortal Kombat 2 on consoles, and a friend of mine got a copy of the game like a few days early. And we took the copy of the game and we went back because he won it, and we went back to his house, and that all weekend we played Mortal Kombat 2 at his house. And then Mortal Kombat 2 came out for Super Nintendo and Genesis that Tuesday, and we all went out and bought it. And when we looked around, we were like, why would we go back to the arcade? We have this here now. And it was like they built the hand that, or they bit the hand that fed them, basically, all in one circle. Where all of a sudden, like, they had created this perfect arcade port, and a lot of people started doing that, and that was what all the boxes said, just like the arcades. And it was just like, yeah, you're right, but minus the lines, minus having to pay 25 cents for each thing, or having to get driven there or dropped off because we didn't have cars, for children. You don't give children cars.
It'd be
That's
weird if
irresponsible.
kids had cars. It'd be messed up.
You do let them play games where they rip off each other's heads.
Don't let them drive cars.
But don't let them drive cars, because that's ridiculous. Sorry, I cursed.
That's all right.
Let's write that down. The fighting game industry sort of helped to kill off themselves in the arcades. And then when that happened, a lot of the really bad arcade fighters didn't get to live another day. Like things like time killers, right? Where you actually slice off people's arms and stuff like that. And then some did, like Virtua Fighter. You could actually see like a lot of the 3D fighters started making it over. But I think people wanted less and less of those sort of like rotational circular fighting games. They wanted just a flat plane.
I think the initial gimmick was that it was, again, very much in that, like, oh, hey, wouldn't this be better if it was 3D? If it was polygons?
It worked with some games.
It
worked for Tekken.
It totally worked
Tekken
for Tekken.
2 and Tekken 3, especially on PS1, were huge.
Well, and that's the other thing.
I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, but Tekken had a very long lifespan, but I would say that lifespan is kind of dried out. I mean, there's still obviously...
There's some hardcore fans.
I'm excited to see what the hell Pokken is.
There are still 7 Tekken machines in the world, and 4 of them are in our office.
That's right.
But its mass appeal did die out. It's very popular in the fighting game community. And again, I abstracted the timeline talking about Killer Instinct. No, there was a whole second wave of 3D fighters. Virtua Fighter began. That Tekken came along.
Battle Arena Toshinden.
Yeah, that was crap. Soul Calibur, which was
people out of a ring,
which was extraordinary. There were a lot of and also wonderful second generation 2D fighting games like Street Fighter Alpha 3, which when it came home was just almost arcade perfect, but the community kept shrinking. I think you hit the nail on the head when you talk about going back to a 2D plane. It's quick, it's comprehensible.
Totally.
And Mortal Kombat, but there have been other, Street Fighter 4 was a great 2D fighting game and popular, but not an iota nearly as popular as this Mortal Kombat 10 launch.
Iota?
Iota. A small amount. Yeah.
From Tearaway?
No, not from Tearaway.
Yoda was in Soul Calibur.
Yeah,
on
Yoda,
Xbox.
the Greek letter. Yoda. Damn it. Not a tiny bit.
Yeah.
So why do you think this happened? Because my theory.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say my theory is that, and this is maybe totally out there, but my theory is that Street Fighter was basically perceived as more technical. I feel like Mortal Kombat's more accessible, which means that even when you drill down and you actually have the best people in the world playing both games, I'm sure they are just technical masterpieces. But when you're walking in a store and you see Street Fighter, you probably still associate it with this like high level play. Whereas I think for some odd reason, the gory, ridiculously violent game is somehow more accessible to people.
No, I think you're close to it there. And Mortal Kombat originally was not a particularly technically impressive game. It was just dumb and fun and easy to play. And when you brought it home with your friends, you weren't trying to execute the special moves. You were trying to execute the fatalities.
Well,
you weren't trying to do combos.
Believe it or not, there was actually a time where we looked at the original graphics of Mortal Kombat and we said, that's amazing. It's so lifelike. And we didn't realize it was just basically 7 JPEGs of a guy standing and punching.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with MK9, the last one that came out now with Mortal Kombat X, is that the games have this cinematic presentation to them to where you don't have to be good at them to have the camera zoom in and do things and give you this visceral response of, look what you did. There's an X-ray. You broke that man's crotch. Now he doesn't have a crotch.
No, it's very much, we're also seeing kind of the rise of spectating games, esports and Twitch streaming and all that stuff. And I'd say a good kind of analog would be Street Fighter is to Counter-Strike as Mortal Kombat is to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
it's like
interesting,
it is a dumber, more gratifying experience. If you're really good at it, you probably want the more technical and the more more involved kind of competitive side of things. But Mortal Kombat again it's a game where you can push 2 buttons and then the skeletons will fight each other's ladders.
Well, NetherRealm Studios has embraced the self-awareness. When they came back with 9, that was brilliant. They're just like, we are the big stupid fighting game. And they did 2 smart things. One, they just owned that like nobody had ever owned it before. And second, they improved the fighting mechanics. That's the other part. Mortal Kombat is a much better fighting game than it used to be. And Injustice improved on those mechanics. And Mortal Kombat 10 is going to improve on Injustice. That's the thing. Mortal Kombat is now a very good technical fighting game. And it's still stupid and fun. This is a game where Jason can fight Predator and where there's a Carl Weathers skin.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
All right. That on a real game.
I love everyone in this office, and I love Vince, but the fact that he hates the fact that Predator and Carl Weathers are in this game
really angry.
makes me very upset.
Yeah. Perhaps in Next Beyond we can just bring Vince in here and we can lay him on the table and I'll beat him a little bit. Just,
I think that's actually a hate
I could do my splits and then punch him in the junk, and then I'd be like, those were $500 sunglasses, asshole.
I just watched that again yesterday. What a fine motion picture by Paul W.S. Anderson.
Yeah.
Do you want to write down the part where Max said the A word?
So we probably
we're
ought
going
to
to let that one slide because he was quoting art.
He was quoting
Yeah,
art.
if we put up a picture of the Venus de Milo, we wouldn't have to censor
Yeah,
her.
But, you know,
wasn't that guy in Melrose Place?
Venus de Milo.
No, the guy that punches Goro in the crotch.
Oh, I don't
So
know. Jonathan
Vince-
Cage?
Yeah, the character that plays Johnny
No,
Cage.
he
or the
wasn't a
actor.
real actor.
No
He
one
was
knows what his
actually
name
a
was.
character in the
Yeah.
movie. Johnny Cage wasn't a real actor.
He was entirely
No.
claymation and practical effects.
Johnny Cage isn't real?
No, Johnny Cage is not real. He was not an actor who appeared in Melrose
man.
Place.
Okay.
Yeah, but this MK9 was a game.
Vince is actually echoing a lot of people's sentiments about this, which I think there are purists around Mortal Kombat, which I do understand to an extension, but that is negated by the fact that Predator rules.
No. I agree. And
Predator rules greater than purist.
Predator does rule. And this is a community of people who don't like Soul Calibur 2. And if you don't like Soul Calibur 2, I don't want to know you.
Yeah, and I got super into that game.
Yeah.
Are you a big Necrid fan?
Oh. Todd, why did we like Todd McFarlane? Why was that allowed?
No, I mean while we're here, I loved Soul Calibur 2. I probably hated all the character design in that game.
No, most of it was good. It's just Necrid. Necrid was
a lot of it was just like, here's tits and cod pieces, which is I guess fine to an extent. But I like it was really just like chains and swords and dildos and boobs. And
tits and cod pieces would be a great name for a podcast.
Yeah,
That
or
is
a band.
So SEO friendly. You got the tits, you got the cod. Just it's all good.
Or a cooking
You
show.
got pieces for One Piece. Kids love One Piece.
Yeah,
Yep.
sure. Yeah.
But yeah, despite all that, I mean, I thought the game was just so much fun to play, so much fun. And I was never really one of those like memorize every technical twitch of the joystick, button combination guys. I actually really miss.
Yeah.
This is how old I am. I miss when you would play a game like that and the arcade in front of you told you what the combos were.
Yeah.
Like it was just like, oh, you got to do this, and then 3 buttons in a row. I was like, oh, got that. I can
can't do it.
I can type that in. You know.
Do you remember the blood code for Mortal Kombat? on your Genesis?
Yeah, buy the Genesis version. Right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
ABACABB. You had to enter that though.
You actually had to have cool parents and not ones that bought you
Yeah.
the baby version.
Just going back really quick to the accessibility of MK9, like that's one of those games that the girl I was dating at the time like wasn't a huge gamer, but
Yep.
she loved playing that.
Yeah.
Because if you put it on easy, she could just mash buttons, and again, it gave you
And
that
look
satisfaction
awesome,
and
right?
look awesome.
Yeah.
Totally.
And that sense of reward. Yeah.
and it's still a game that I have on my shelf when I have people who come over who aren't crazy into games. They look at the shelf like, oh man, Mortal Kombat. I remember this
Yeah.
from a kid. Can we
Yeah.
play this?
Oh, you
Fun.
pull
It's-
MK9
and it
out.
stays true to the.
Yeah.
Yep.
And have you ever played Test Your Luck mode?
Oh yeah, that's great.
Oh, it's the best thing in the game. If you're not a hardcore fighting game guy, it's just like a slot machine that's like one guy doesn't have arms and the other one can shoot meteors.
Yep.
And then you fight. It's
That's
great.
awesome.
It's so wonderful.
So I totally get it. I just don't see what a franchise like Street Fighter does to like win people back from a situation like that, because I feel like the split is so.
It puts
I mean,
RoboCop.
Well, Street Fighter 5.
Yeah.
It's
Five?
coming.
Good God.
Yeah.
Street Fighter 5, and it's
PS4 exclusive.
Yep.
That's a power play right there.
it is.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to playing it. Street Fighter 4 was wonderful. It is a very accessible game,
Yep.
despite being
Yep.
a high-level fighting game.
And-
you can sit down and just play Street Fighter 4. You
And
really can.
absolutely beautiful in completely
game.
different
Yeah.
ways than Mortal Kombat is.
But
Yep.
you can't punch someone in the penis and stop them from having.
Yeah,
two
and
children.
Predator's not in it, so I don't know if I'll be buying
Yeah,
that.
and there's probably no Carl Weathers characters.
Yeah.
You could probably totally punch somebody in the penis in Street Fighter.
Now, somebody in NetherRealm.
They just don't really go like, "Oh, my dick."
So
Doesn't show you an
whole,
X-ray, the outline of it. Just
the whole Predator thing, somebody at NetherRealms was brilliant. Like, the character reveals for like 2 months were just, some guy walking out of a black background in shadows,
Yeah.
right? And he just walks forward. It's like, Goro lives. And, and they do that character after character. When they come to like Predator, they have the 3 people come walking out of the background that were also revealed in that trailer.
Yeah.
They all come, and then he just like materializes in front of them. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, he's been standing there the whole time because he's Predator.
How
That's
cool
awesome.
is that? They probably bumped into him and he felt the weird thing on his back.
Yeah.
And, he's like,
It was
"Oh,
like
it's
some
so weird."
marketing guy was like, I am so cool.
what do you
And Johnny Cage is like, "Oh man, this movie's so realistic. I don't even understand the special effects." And they cut off his
right.
head, and he's like, "Wow, that's crazy real blood that he never really knows he's in hell."
Just remember what Raiden said. Mortal Kombat is not about death, but life.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's not true. That is 100% about that.
It's about
enough.